feels like he was just waiting for me to say something awful, like that I think sinners deserve the extermination.
You really couldn't have thought about literally any other example? Hazbin Hotel, Vivi Madrono's magnum opus, and the punching bag for pretty much the entire internet. It's been a little over a year since I made my review of the first season, which unsurprisingly wasn't my cup of tea. You can watch my 2 videos if you want my full criticisms, but here's the TLDW. The show is pretty much the equivalent of a steak that was cooked with the flame of a matchstick without a grill. Despite the simplistic storyline, they managed to front-load the entire 8 episodes with so much bullshit that by the time we got to the actual climax, it was hard to really even care about what was going on. The characters range from complete nothing burgers to just straight up confused messes when you try to piece together their motivations or just basic characterizations in general. They flip-flop insanely hard, going from just goofy, horny archetypes to extremely heavy topics like abuse and sexual assault, and the transitions are not smooth. They're incredibly out of pocket, come out completely randomly, and gives me so much tonal whiplash that I have to snap my own neck just to regain some semblance of comprehension. The show likes to frame itself as some sort of dark comedy with emphasis on heavy topics, but it prioritizes so much on spectacle and lowbrow humor that when it comes time to actually deliver on emotional moments, they just do not hit. Sometimes it's just because they don't have enough build-up, and other times it's because the things the characters are saying don't line up whatsoever with the way they were behaving when the show was trying to make a dumb joke. The inconsistencies become painfully glaring whenever the supposed serious moments come up, because Angel Dust being an abuse victim becomes a non-factor whenever they need him to essentially harass Husk. Am I looking too deep into it? Maybe. Or maybe this show is an incoherent pile of dog shit that needs to get its priorities straight. Literally choose one. Are you an episodic dark comedy that's not meant to be taken too seriously, or are you a plot-driven drama with comedic aspects? You don't get to try and combine the two and then get mad when people point out how poor of a job you did. Now, in all fairness, I'm not gonna pretend like all of my problems are the show's fault, because as much as people don't like to admit, biases and personal preferences are definitely gonna affect your judgment no matter what. And this is so clearly not the kind of show I would normally watch. My distaste towards 90% of the musical numbers is very clear evidence of that. But one of the most common consensus I saw after the conclusion of season 1 was that the show did feel noticeably rushed. Even the most loyal of Hazbin Hotel fans went out of their way to try and say that if the show simply had more time and room to work with, it could have been great. When the show was sold off to a studio, one of the stipulations of the agreement was that it needed to be greenlit for 2 seasons right off the bat, something that I can only assume was not enough for Vivi since she felt the need to cram as much crap as possible into the first season, which unsurprisingly astroturfed the downfall of the show's pacing. Thankfully, prior to the release of the second season, we were greeted by some, I guess you can say good news? It depends on who you ask, honestly.
I'm sure you are all aware of the amazing news that we have been greenlit for seasons 3 and 4 of Hazbin Hotel.
No, you heard that right. We are getting 4 seasons of Hazbin Hotel. 2 whole new seasons before the second one even started airing. Clearly, despite the constant mockery it gets, Amazon made bank off this shit. So to those who unironically like this show, that whole time constraint thing is completely out the window. There is absolutely no way there is not enough episodes now to tell a story this fucking basic, especially when you killed off one of the biggest potential villains of the series in the very first season. They now have all the insurance they need to take their time and set the pacing right. I'm expecting great things. Episode 1 begins about a month after where the last season ended. Ever since the big victory against Adam, it seems like the hotel has gained a good deal of clout for being the first step to fighting back against heaven and the angels. Or at least that's what the general public seems to think. Cutting back to the hotel, we see that the place is now crawling with demons who are oh so eager to meet Charlie, the supposed hero who stopped the last extermination. Unfortunately for them though, she's too busy having a mental breakdown in her room with a talking egg. What is she crying about exactly? Serpentious. And just like that, we got our first set of problems. I do not give a rat's ass about Serpentious. This episode spends a good deal trying to make you feel sad about him being gone, with Charlie crying about his death, Cherry mourning her relationship with him, and they even go so far as to replace him with some random guy they title the episode after. Granted, I guess it's better than pretending he never existed, but that's a lot of stock to put onto a character whose personality just boils down to that awkward snake guy. He wasn't even an official part of the main cast till the 3rd episode, and it's not like he even did all that much afterwards. It makes sense that Charlie is broken up about it since that's just her personality, but do you really expect me to believe Cherry developed lingering feelings for him because of that one moment? There was only one episode where he was somewhat starting to become civil with the rest of the characters, and yet they're treating his death like he was good friends with them for years or something. If they had kept it to a small selective group of people, that'd be fine, but everyone? I can't even remember a single conversation he's had with Vaggie or even Husk. Also, some of this dialogue is just really clumsy, man.
We beat Adam and the hotel's packed, even though lots of people died.
A lot of people? Fucking who? The Angels only attacked your hotel before being driven out. 99% of your staff are still alive. Are you talking about the cannibals? Am I actually supposed to care about Glup Shitto who got killed off screen?
If you believe in our dream, then you are welcome to stay.
Gee, I wonder if they're going to walk out. Yep, that's what I thought. Now, obviously, this ain't really great for Charlie since the hotel is supposed to be a place of redemption and peace, not violence. This ties us into the B-plot with the V's who are using the news to slander them in hopes of getting more followers to start a revolution against heaven since they now know angels can be killed. And I'll admit, these guys were easily the best part of the episode. I briefly mentioned in a previous review how underutilized these guys were during the first season, and I do still think they should have been the main villains before Adam, but they've done a pretty good job of bringing them into the forefront. Their decision to make a move now of all times makes complete sense with the context of the show, and not only is their evil plan actually not terrible, but it also gives them a good reason to actually butt heads with the hotel beyond just
that fucker's back!
Le connection to Alistair. These guys bounce off each other pretty freaking well, with Vox being a showboating, insecure jackass, Valentino just being a complete piece of shit, and Velvet just going with the vibes. I surprisingly enjoyed every single one of their scenes. Even the musical numbers were pretty good. So overall, about 50% of the episode worked for me. A significant improvement compared to the first season. The ending even almost made me laugh. Unfortunately, this is then followed by a significantly weaker episode when we're brought back to heaven where Sir Pentious is being judged by a council of angels. Unsurprisingly, everyone is more concerned than thrilled at the fact that a demon managed to cross the borders from the pits of Tartarus, especially since they now know about the exterminations and are now freaking out about a potential uprising. This is a much more plot-driven episode with Sir Pentious getting aired out to the public, the introduction to the son of Adam, another character that's apparently supposed to be the voice of God, and Lute is apparently losing her mind because no one seems to give a shit about Adam's death. A lot of heavy stuff, which makes the fact that all of this being crammed into one episode all the more apparent. Sir Pentious' backstory really only works if you have a strong connection with the character itself, and I've already explained just how much I do not give a shit about this guy. The music, voice acting, and visuals are hammed up to the absolute max to make it seem like this tragic tearjerker, when in reality he was just a fucking dweeb whose biggest crime was being afraid to out a serial killer, one who seemed to have quite a lot of power according to himself. It's a pretty messed up story, obviously, but I don't think it was the emotional roller coaster they were aiming to portray, just a ham-fisted backstory for an almost nothing burger of a character. Which is kind of sad because you can feel the voice actor trying his absolute best here, but the material he was given just isn't very good. It also made me roll my eyes how this was all it took to change Sarah's mind about everything. Like, I know Lute was meant to be seen as manic in this scene, but she does have somewhat of a point. Are you not at least going to verify if this story is in any way true? You spent what I can only assume to be centuries seeing demons as liars and the absolute scum of existence, but you choose to take Pentious at his words now? Seriously? I'm not saying this is a bad direction to take Sarah's character, in fact it's probably the only good direction to take her character, but all I'm saying is it happened a little too fast. Centuries of propaganda shouldn't magically disappear after one trauma dumping session. Aside from that, 90% of the jokes in this episode were just plain bad. I don't expect to laugh when I watch this show, but I was either sighing heavily or rolling my eyes every time certain characters open their mouths. Abel and Pete are not funny, like at all. We've got the son of Adam, the main villain of last season, and he's just a comic relief chump. Doesn't even seem to give a shit about his dad dying. Not a sliver of emotional investment. I did surprisingly come to like Emily this episode though. I kind of just expected her to be the heaven palette swap of Charlie, but there's a certain level of unhingedness to her demeanor that really caught me off guard, and it kind of made her interactions with Pentious a lot more entertaining. Her musical number was annoying as shit, but I am interested to see if she's going to turn out to be some secret psychopath or something. That would actually be really funny. Episode 3 takes the show from its weakest episode to its absolute most dogshit one so far. Picking up right after the end of episode 1, Charlie freaks the hell out because she now knows for sure that the hotel does in fact work. This groundbreaking discovery, along with witnessing a slanderous balloon, compels her to call up Vox's news network for an exclusive interview so that she can deliver the big announcement, despite having no proof whatsoever and Vaggie literally telling her it's a bad idea, but of course she does it anyway. The rest of the episode is then spent with Charlie bumbling around like a complete dumbass trying to prove that redemption is possible, all the while Vox is so blatantly trying to set her up, doing things like misinterpreting her words in the worst way possible, spreading blatant lies, and even trauma-dumping Angel Dust's backstory, which I guess was supposed to be a big reveal, but like...
Tell me, Princess, what exercise could one do to be forgiven for being, Stop! Murderer.
Give them a place. Holy shit, oh my gosh, why?
Why are they acting like this is a big deal? Yeah, no shit, murder's bad, but you're in hell. You walk past literal murderers and rapists every single day, and you're still convinced you can somehow redeem these people. So why are we acting like this is new territory? Especially when it's painfully obvious that his dad was probably a complete piece of shit while he was alive. I hated every second of this episode, from the forced romance subplot between Cherry and Penchus, the stupid drama between Husk and Angel, which by the way results in the most retarded argument I've ever seen, and quite possibly the biggest sin this episode commits is the egregious character assassination of its protagonist. Charlie has never been the smartest character in the cast, but most of her bad decisions up to this point always seem like they came from a place of naivety and genuinely wanting to assume the best in others. Here though, she is just acting exceptionally stupid, to a degree that honestly seems out of character. Literally seconds after Angel almost died because of her, she then proceeds to pressure him into coming out with his deepest secret that he is clearly uncomfortable with talking about, right in front of the co-workers of his abusive boss, no less. What the f do you mean Husk is in danger? We saw how powerful she was in season 1. You're saying she can power up to fight Adam and yell at Vox at the end, but she can't use any of those demon powers to cut a goddamn rope? None of this tension or drama works because it requires all the characters to act like complete retards for it to actually happen. And the jokes are still not funny.
A poor, helpless damsel has been tied to the train tracks by me, the diabolical.
Oh my god, this is not funny. This is not funny. How... Oh my god. How is there so much still left?
Thankfully, this is then followed up by a much more entertaining episode centering mostly around Alistair, while Charlie still continues to get finessed by Velvet. After getting made fun of by Lucifer, Alistair gets his panties in a twist and quits working at the hotel, going straight back to Cannibal Town to visit Rosie afterwards, and it's here that we learn that she's the one who owns his soul. As you might have already guessed, when Alistair was a human, he worked as a radio host who also had a double life as a serial killer, who also had a knack for some satanic mumbo-jumbo, and it was thanks to this that he was able to contact Rosie a day before his death for the sole purpose of selling his soul in order to become the strongest sinner in hell. Unfortunately, thanks to his staff being broken, he's significantly weaker and feeling just a tiny little bit shortchanged. But boo-hoo, Rosie refuses to fix his staff for whatever reason, so he has to deal with the V's by himself now. I don't really understand why she won't fix the staff exactly. Isn't the whole benefit of making Alistair this all-powerful sinner being the fact that despite him being the strongest guy in town now, he still works under you? You had an entire musical number reminding him he's your bitch. You've made your point. Why won't you just fix his staff? You're actively choosing to let an asset under your control stay broken. How exactly is keeping him weaker benefiting you in any way? But yeah, sure, Alistair is sent out the door with nothing to show for it and now has to tackle the problem with the V's by himself. Therefore, he comes up with the brilliant plan of challenging all three of them at once, which results in Nifty and Husk having to save his ass, but they end up getting beaten up too. So, to clean up the mess he's made, Alistair makes a deal with Vox that he'd be his prisoner in exchange that they spare Nifty and Husk, and they're not to lay a finger on Charlie Morningstar. He agrees, and the rest of the runtime is basically spent with the two of them just blowing raspberries at each other in the gayest way possible. On an overall scale, I actually really enjoyed this episode. It's easily my favorite out of the four that are currently out. Vox so far has been a really enjoyable villain. He's not annoying for one. He has great chemistry with his team and bounces off pretty nicely with other characters. His motivations, although a bit silly, is believable and something I can actually engage with. A significant improvement from Adam, all things considered. At least Vox actually has a reason to do the things he does. Ironically enough, the most disappointing part of this episode is actually Alistair, which hurts to say because he's been my favorite character since day one. His backstory is pretty much exactly what you'd expect it to be. There's no deeper layers to his personality, no deeper motive. He's just always been a charismatic psychopath. It's the kind of backstory that makes you go, yeah, it makes sense, it's just kind of underwhelming. His staff being broken means that he's supposed to be weaker, but if you pay even the slightest bit of attention, he's able to do most of the things he did in the previous season, just to a smaller scale, and he's clearly tiring out faster. Some might say these are good details. I say it kinda just highlights how little he did in season 1 before he fought an actual opponent and got his ass kicked. I swear the reasoning behind why he let himself get captured is going to be the dumbest thing imaginable, but he's going to smile and say, all according to plan at the end, and we're going to be expected to just applaud the genius writing. There's so much being set up in these 4 episodes that I know the conclusion to all these ongoing plot points are either going to get thrown out entirely or be resolved in the most unsatisfying way possible. But then again, this is just my biased preconceptions. I could still totally be wrong here. Following Alistair's defeat, Vox's influence and power continues to increase to a point where the majority of Hell and most of the Overlords have joined his side, the 3 exceptions being Zestial, Carmilla, and of course Alistair. With all eyes now on him, he decides to take his plans to the very next step by holding a citywide press conference to gather his followers against the Angels. Things are incredibly dicey now, so Charlie tries to get the attention of Emily and Sarah, which actually ends up paying off. Sarah, Emily, and the Scooby Gang show up to Hell, and although they couldn't bring penches for some reason, they do agree to try and send out an olive branch to the citizens of Hell by apologizing for genocide. Yeah, it really doesn't go well. Apparently an apology and some gift baskets aren't exactly enough when you've been slaughtering their people for centuries on end. One thing I want to immediately tackle is this one specific scene. As Vox is getting ready for his big press conference, Alistair continues to try and goad him about how much of a reliant loser he's being, and it seems to be working because by the end of this exchange, Vox manages to piss off Valentino because of his own insecurity.
Nah, actually, Val, how about you and Velvet manage backstage? Can't have any mistakes in the presentation. I can handle the crowd.
So it's pretty obvious what direction they're trying to take this, I just don't entirely buy it. The narrative that Vox is useless without Valentino and Velvet was something that was brought up once in the previous season, but never really fleshed out due to them being pushed to the back burner at the time. From the looks of it though, it seems like they're setting up for the other 2 Vs to either betray or abandon Vox by the end of the season. Here's the issue though. Valentino might specialize in recruiting workers and keeping them in line, and Velvet may excel in marketing to ensure the stadiums aren't empty, but Vox is, without sarcasm, the most vital part of their entire plan. These 2 episodes try to paint this picture that Vox is just a weak coward, and the moment his 2 associates leave him, he'd just be a complete nobody. However, in this very same episode, he manages to outdo Lucifer, rally almost the entirety of Hell against Charlie despite her having a bunch of angels at her side, and even sends them packing after declaring war on heaven. That is legitimately an impressive feat, and I can't see either Valentino or Velvet having the charisma to be able to pull that off, so this idea that he really needs them just feels really forced. If anything, they're the ones who cause a lot of his problems, with Valentino beating on hookers in public and Velvet antagonizing Carmilla during that Overlord meeting, something that Vox actually had to fix the following episode, by the way. It's hard to put my thoughts into words because of how baffled I am, but this whole entire episode was just every character except the villains being massive dumbasses. The angels were stupid, Vaggy's excuse to go behind Charlie's back was stupid because I'm pretty damn sure she would have perked up if you brought up the idea of involving her father. And speaking of which, why can't Lucifer do anything exactly? I know, you can't permanently kill sinners in Hell, they'll just respawn. But my counter to that is so f***ing what? Listen to me, I don't think you understand just how much of a non-issue this is. It's not like they immediately spawn back into place. Once a demon is killed by another demon, they still need time to come back, and it's not even a guarantee they'll be at full strength after that. So if anything, this sounds even better than actually killing him. You could potentially be resetting him back to level 1. Screw this fake intimidation crap. Lucifer could have just incinerated all 3 of them, and then they can fix this whole entire mess while they're trying to piece themselves back together. I don't understand. Give me a legitimate reason why this is not a viable course of action besides potentially hurting Charlie's poor little feelings. I hate to sound like a broken record, but none of this drama works because the problems that caused it have such obvious solutions to them. You've just made made the characters too mind-numbingly stupid to figure it out. And the drama really isn't good, man. I've been giving the comedy a lot of shit, but I don't think there's a single serious aspect of the show that I'm legitimately invested in, besides maybe Alistair's shenanigans. I don't care that Charlie's mad at her dad. This small little spat between Husk and Angel shouldn't have even happened, because why the hell did this fool even get mad at him? Charlie and Vaggy's argument was already dumb as shit and way too reminiscent of their fight in the last season, but Charlie nearing the end of the episode all of a sudden just magically realizes she's in the wrong. That's not even a joke. They were fighting in one scene, and then the next time they're seen together, Charlie just apologizes. We never get to see her pondering or coming to that conclusion. It's so comically lazy.
Fox is declaring a war, and Carmilla's right. I started it, and I'm a hypocrite, and my dreams are gonna die.
Shut up, you know that I love you.
What?
Listen up to this fire. Some of your dreams haven't come true. Well, here's how we'll break the cycle.
Also, Vivian, for future reference, a plot twist only works if it's guessable in hindsight. There was zero indication that Angel Dust was ever hypnotized, not a single line or visual cue for us to feasibly guess that Vox had made him into an unknowing spy. You had plenty of opportunities to do so, like maybe having Cherry point out something weird while Angel was showing her his phone in episode 3, but you didn't do any of that. You can't tell us to guess a murder weapon between a knife and a bat and then reveal that it was actually the gun in your pocket. You never showed that to me. How was I supposed to guess that? Now, some of you might be saying, but Pseudo, there's 2 more episodes left, why didn't you wait? I've covered about 75% of the season so far, and the conclusion I've come to is that the show is in a really shitty spot at the moment. A lot of the tension and drama feel insanely artificial due to how lazily the show executes the events leading up to them. The characters feel as though they've remained completely stagnant or outright regressed, and there's so many mistangled plot threads that I'm surprised the show hasn't completely lost blood circulation yet. As it stands, it really doesn't seem like they learned a thing from the mistakes of season 1. They executed almost everything in the exact same manner, with the only difference being some of the pieces on the board. This season is a rushed mess, and the only enjoyable factor was the villains. I don't really see a world in which 2 more episodes will fix all the problems I have so far. My conclusion is going to be the same no matter what. Rosie's still hot as shit though.